Okay, well, here I am in a completely different place on a remote beach on the Pacific coast of Mexico. And with this video, I'm attempting to weave a beautiful tapestry in your mind using some imagery from a recent experience of mine in the mountains. And the purpose of this is to use this imagery of a journey up into the mountains, hiking from the valley to the summit, using the device of a metaphor or allegory, depending on how you choose to define it. I will take something from the outside, from our external reality, and using it as a mirror of what happens inside, I will try to attempt to explain to you what it is that we need to do in order to rise above the lower states of anxiety and depression and get to that higher place in our state and level of being. The idea being, by raising our level of awareness and understanding through everything that we know at any given moment and everything that we feel, our consciousness and our conscience, that we can gain a better understanding and a better perception of the reality outside of us, the reality within us, and where we fit into the bigger picture of the universe and where we ought to be heading. So without further ado, let's get going on our journey from the valley to the summit, and we'll temporarily exchange this beautiful spot on planet Earth for another one. So yeah, come on with me. Come on with me, and let's get started on our journey to the summit. So when we first start out on our journey up into the mountains from the valley to the summit, we get to the trailhead and we take a look at the map. We have a rough idea of where we want to go, what we want to accomplish, and a bit of an idea of our route, how we're going to get there. But at the same time, even though we have that map of reality in our minds, we know that deep down situations can change and we have to remain flexible. So at the trailhead, we got the map, we're starting out. Now, one of the things before we even get started, you want to take a really good look at what you're going to bring along with you. You're going to, really, if you want to move efficiently and well and adeptly along this trail through life, you want to pack light. You want to bring really the only essential creature comforts, the things that you're really going to need and use. It's going to really elevate your experience. So minimize the baggage, maximize each article that we choose to bring with us for its maximum impact. So, for example, some of the things we want to leave behind are those really, really heavy things that are going to weigh us down. You're hiking up the mountain, you're not going to bring a microwave, you're not going to bring a TV, you're not going to bring, I don't know, some do, but personally I wouldn't bring a cooler full of beer. Although it'd be nice to kick back and enjoy a cold one at the summit, realistically, it's really going to weigh us down. So anything that's heavy, that's negative, that's going to weigh you down with the pull of gravity acting on it, it's going to hold you back and slow you down. So we want to leave all that stuff behind. Things that we really don't want to bring with us that can weigh us down is the past. If you look back through your life, there's definitely elements from the past that are heavy. And those really don't serve you on your journey up the mountain. And for a lot of us, it's difficult. It's difficult because we try to push the past to the furthest recesses of our minds, back down low, where it's dark. We don't have to deal with it or worry about it. Basically, we push it out of our awareness. You really just don't want to bring that with you. It serves no purpose other than to weigh you down. And there's a really great tool to help with this. From my own personal experience, I call this device the Trauma Matrix. And if you're really interested in knowing what it looks like and how to use it, you can sign up to my email newsletter here, and you get a template for a Trauma Matrix, and it'll really help you dig into your past, figure out those really heavy items, that really need to be confronted and dealt with in order to liberate you from it and to lighten the load. Now that we've got ourselves packed, we have our essentials, we have our map, we start over on the trailhead. And it really is quite simple. We look forward down the trail, and every day at a time, every minute and every moment, placing one step in front of the other, we make our way. We make our way along this winding trail through life. So along this way, along the journey, along the trail, we're going to encounter many bridges that we have to cross. And a lot of these bridges, they lead to a better place on the other side. And they also span the gap between these dark places that you really don't want to go. Kind of like, the deep gorge that drops 100, 200 feet down into a pool of rapids. Deep crevices and ravines. Chasms that are filled with darkness and trepidation and fear down below. In another way, from a different angle, some of these dark places that we have to cross over via the bridges, they can be equated to slums or dark alleys in the midst of a city. So in addition to bridges, as we continue down the trail, there's also natural phenomena like landslides. Big events that are outside of us or outside of our control, and they're things that happen. They happen around us and require us to respond in the right way at the right time. And if we're paying attention and we're vigilant with awareness and presence, then we can navigate our way through the landslide, around the massive boulders and rocks and debris. And by slowly picking our way through, we can navigate through the debris fields and safely find a way across to the other side. Looking back, although they can be perceived to be quite dangerous, looking back, they can also be quite lovely and beautiful too. When we get to the other side, looking back, there can often be a really beautiful view and a different perspective of this beautiful landscape that shows the story, the memory, the tale of that near miss or that riveting journey that we managed to find along our path through and around this natural phenomena. As we follow the trail along this journey, we encounter the bridges, the chasms, the gorges, the landslides, all of the majestic beauty, all of the beautiful places where we want to stop to rest and admire the view. At all of these times, it's important for us to not forget our aim, to remember both ourselves and where we're aiming to head, and that is up higher towards the summit. So no matter what happens along this journey, it's vitally important that we always remember our focus and our aim. So at many points along this journey, along the trail, we will find many breathtaking viewpoints to stop, to catch our breaths and stretch our legs and look out. Look out across the horizon. It's a really valuable exercise to stop and to take stock of the beautiful scenery, the vistas, the landscapes, and to keep perspective of both ourselves and where we fit into that majestic landscape that is the universe, that is the life that is constantly unfolding within us and all around us. This terrain is absolutely stunning. Just the scale and the diversity of form. No matter how tempting it is to want to stop at these plateaus, these beautiful spots with the scenic view, again, we have to remember that our goal is the summit. Our goal is to continue to move higher and deeper into the mountains towards the pinnacle at the top. One really interesting thing to think about is that with all observable phenomena in nature, there are two sides to every coin. Or from another angle, two ends to the proverbial stick. There's light and dark, hot and cold, high and low, near and far, hard and soft. All of these amazing qualities, they are different degrees of the same thing. It's all really kind of relative. But just like every other observable phenomena in nature, our beings as well have two sides. There's always one side that's in the light that we're aware of, that we're conscious of, but we always carry with us the other side that's in shadow, that's in darkness. And along our journey, if we keep both our hearts and our minds open as we move higher and deeper, we will learn to shed more light into these dark areas so that they become visible to us, so that we have a better perspective and sense of the whole of our reality as beings in this beautiful universe on this incredible journey. So, wherever possible, turn and look, as difficult as it may be, turn and look towards the shadow and see, shed some light into those dark areas to help lighten the load and make the journey up the mountainside even that much easier. Although our principal aim again and our focus is the summit, one of our missions here on this journey is to continually shed light on the internal darkness. And by doing so, develop our understanding of ourselves. Energy in the universe is always cycling. So, for example, water. The water in the ocean, with the heat of the sun, evaporates, becomes lighter, moves up into the atmosphere, condenses as clouds. And then as the clouds get bulky enough, they eventually release the water back as individual drops, come back down to the ocean. And in many ways, the water cycles are a really great metaphor for our existence as individuals on Earth. You can imagine yourself as an apparent individual, as a drop of water and a raindrop falling from a cloud back to the ocean. In many ways, that's what your life here is. But all the while, even though your experience of life is as a raindrop, if you retain the bigger picture of water as a whole, you remember that you're never really separated from the ocean. You're just part of the continuing process of the cycle. Yeah, so along this journey, you have to continually imbibe truth, the water of truth. So it's also really important to take time to stop and to fill our cups with water so that we stay hydrated, that we stay connected to the cycle as we continue our journey up into higher elevations and moving towards the summit. Alrighty, so now just a quick little detour to share a few details of what really transpired during my hike and the little wrench that was thrown into my original plan. Originally, I was planning to head up to a really sweet spot at a beautiful alpine lake that I'd only visited once before many years ago. The plan was to hike up and spend 2 solid days at the lake in silence and solitude just to hang out with myself. Well, about halfway into the hike, I came across a posted sign indicating that one of the critical bridges across a glacial river had been washed out by a previous winter storm, and that the trail was now impassable. I was definitely a little bit heartbroken, but I was also determined, so I continued on the trail to check out the real-time conditions up ahead. Sure enough, when I got to the appropriate spot, the bridge was washed out. I decided to hike upriver towards its source, higher up at the snowpack at the edge of the glacier. By the time I got there, it was starting to get dark, so I found a less than ideal but acceptable spot to set up camp and plan to scout things out more the next morning. After a patchy night's sleep, I found that there was a possible route across the shallows of the river where it emerged from the base of the snowpack. I decided that I would go for it, but I would ditch my pack and only take the essential items of food, water, clothing, and trekking poles required for the journey. My recalibrated time to spend at the lake was effectively reduced from 4 to 8 hours to 4. But hey, you gotta take what you can get. By taking a diversion up a steep bridge, up and above the river, I managed to scramble up and around the washed out section of the trail and regain the trail on the other side of the riverbed. After a couple more hours of hiking, I finally made it to the lake, and oh my God, was it ever amazing. My time at the lake was truly mind-blowing. I went for a swim in the crystal clear waters of the lake that had been warmed to perfection by the long days etched by the late summer sun.
Woo! Life is good!
It was so peaceful and quiet and idyllic, it seemed almost impossibly beautiful and surreal. After a luxurious swim, I picked and ate wild blueberries and huckleberries that were in full season to my heart's content. Then I spent some time in meditation and doing yoga, had a light lunch, and basked in the sunshine, taking in the serenity and majesty of the scenes that unfolded both around and within me. At the predetermined time, with a little bit of resignation and a little sadness, I put my boots back on and said my thank yous and goodbyes to a place that is sincerely one of my favorites.
This is a bit of a sad moment. I have to leave this place, only spending a couple hours here when I really was aiming to spend, the better part of 24, a couple nights here. But the important thing is that I made it, and I was able to spend some time here. And the fact that I will carry this memory of this place with me again is the most important thing. And so it's time to move on.
The point of sharing all this here with you is to show you that by remaining present, mentally flexible, and open to the changing conditions of the world around you, it is within your power to actively choose the outcome of any challenging situation in life. By rising above old patterns and negative conditioning, and by examining all of the different possibilities that exist in the present moment, you can actively choose to respond in the most positive and best way possible. By maintaining awareness and presence, you can effectively change any perceived obstacle into a helpful stepping stone that will carry you forward and on your way. So after my crazy but completely successful trip up to the lake, I returned back down the trail to a slightly lower elevation and a little bit more of civilized base camp. I was pretty energized in a relatively high state of being. To put it quite plainly, I was ecstatic after an amazing hike in the mountains. To bookend a simply gorgeous and an amazing but exhausting 16-mile day of hiking, swimming, yoga, and all that, I was rewarded that evening with one of the best night skies that I'd seen in ages. One of the things that I really love doing when the conditions are right and I have the time, it's to spend as much time as possible staring up at the magnificent heavens that surround this beautiful planet. Anyway, on this particular night, the sky was amazing, so I feel compelled to share this experience with you. Now, sometimes I like to go off on these little woo-woo delusional tangents of imagination because I find it quite interesting and fun to periodically fall down these rabbit holes and to connect some of the various dots in this very strange and beautiful universe that we live in. This place we call home is one in which everything is connected, everything is alive and continually changing and growing. So I'm going to ask you to bear with me and take my hand as I guide you down a rabbit hole in this next section, which is really nothing more than a stream of consciousness expressed in verbal and visual form. My purpose of sharing this with you is to reach out and try to touch you on a deeper level of your being. On this particular night, after a couple of long, rewarding days of hiking, for the first time, I was able to clearly view the constellation Pisces in all of its splendor. Now, Pisces is a really fascinating group of stars for me. The constellation is represented by two fishes swimming in opposite directions, one emerging from chaos, moving towards order, and the other emerging from order, moving towards chaos. Equal opposites, moving in opposing directions, both converging at a point in space and time, represented embodied by the primary star in the system, which is known as Alpha Piscium. Other names for the star include Al-Resha from Arabic and Syndesmos from Greek. This star has been observed, described, and known for many tens of thousands of years. These words refer to the star as being the cord or connection, the knot or linkage or point of contact between those two fishes swimming in opposite directions. It may also infer a linkage between the complementary higher level of order and light in the universe and the lower level of chaos and darkness. Almost like an umbilical cord between the higher and lower levels of the universe, the lives of the two fish are connected from birth by the invisible force of love that permeates all of the known universe. The old astrological Pisces symbol reflects this idea and represents a narrow bridge connecting two worlds. Maybe you've heard about the Hermetic principle of correspondence. You know, the one that goes as above, so below. Most people make the assumption that it refers to only the fact that what we do internally in our minds above is reflected back to us in the outside world below and creates our experiences in life. However, I believe that this principle, like most things in life, goes both ways. What happens out there in the starry world can be reflected in events here on Earth in the form of human relations, interactions, and behaviors. What if there are human relationships and beings divined on Earth that mirror the relationships of the beings of stars in the heavens? Definitely a beautiful and crazy idea, but one that is quite interesting to contemplate. An interesting thing about Alpha Piscium is that it isn't just a single star, but rather the light that we perceive is the combined light from two stars that orbit around one another. Alpha Piscium is actually a binary system with two components, Piscium A and Piscium B, that are continually pushing and pulling against each other as they spin around a common axis in space while radiating out their energy. Kind of like two partners going round and round, shimming and shaking on the dance floor to the pulse, rhythm, and sounds of a melodious song. The stars are in gravitational resonance, so you could equally imagine them here on Earth as two perfectly matched tennis players engaged in a continuous volley back and forth that stretches out uninterrupted across an infinity of time. Anyway, one cool thing about binary stars is that they periodically release great pulses of energy and light in grand astronomical events called novas. If components in binary systems are close enough, they can gravitationally distort each other's outer stellar atmospheres. In some cases, these close binary systems can exchange mass, which may bring their evolution to stages that single stars cannot normally attain. One example from human history of an observed nova event was the bright star that was reportedly seen around the time of the birth of Jesus of Nazareth. As a result of the nova phenomenon, binary systems have revealed to astronomers much of what we know about the development and evolution of both planetary and star systems. For the duration of their lifetimes in the astral world, the two stars in a binary system are locked in embrace and exist in a form of unity, acting on other celestial bodies as one combined force. Naturally, this leads me towards thoughts about my own relationship with you, my dear, highly esteemed and appreciated viewer, in this little universe right here. In much the same way, in this very moment, right here and now, you and I are like two stars in a binary system, spinning around one another with a certain gravity shared between us. What if in this very moment, as our minds are united through this medium of YouTube, right here and now, what if the combined four hemispheres of our two brains actually amount to a product greater than the sum of its parts? What if, when two minds are brought together, like the union of the two fish of chaos and order, they create one unified organism that completes the cycle of life in the seasons in nature and brings all four elements together in harmony and resonance with the fundamental force that binds the universe together in one cohesive expression of expansion, growth, and love? What if? Now, thinking again about Al-Resha, my mind then naturally drifts to the spectral plot of the light curve for this star system. You will notice that the graph takes the form of a wave. This wave function is a mathematical device which illustrates visually how an oscillation between two extreme poles is propagated as energy. This symbol of the wave function can be used to describe everything in the universe, because everything, in fact, is just energy. So again, if we were to look at the gravitational wave functions of Piscium A and Piscium B, because they are in equilibrium or essentially opposite and equals, then the plots would look like this. On the human scale of life, interpreted from the point of interaction between two human beings, this could be equivalent to marriage, death, and rebirth, all in one swift stroke. Now, going back to the idea of equal opposites, we should recall that every single thing in material existence has its perfect equal and opposite. Light and dark, hot and cold, hard and soft, loud and quiet, order and chaos. Remember the two fish? The two fish swimming in opposite directions? Well, in chemistry, we find the same patterns. For example, if we look at the molecule known as carbone, there are two mirror molecules, the R and the S enantiomers, that both contain all the same atoms but are radically different. Although these two molecules contain all the same atoms and share the same conformation or shape, we perceive them to taste very differently when we ingest them, one in the form of caraway seed and the other one in the form of spearmint. Most people are unaware of this, but most of the diversity in life that we experience all comes from the same source. The perceived differences only arise as a result of how the light reflects back to us off the surface of the mirror of our senses. This principle of complementarity is known in some circles as the mirror principle or the mirror effect. This idea refers to the elusive but real fact that what we do in our internal psychology, or what we allow to be created in our hearts and minds in the form of thought and emotion, is reflected back to us in our direct experiences of reality. The positive or negativeness of the experience is relative, and it is akin to whether we choose to love or detest the taste of caraway or spearmint in the heat of the moment. This is what David Hawkins meant when he said, all that we experience are our own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs projected onto the world, actually causing what we see to happen. In simple terms, other wisdom holders have repeatedly said that your being attracts your life, or your state of being is the vessel for your experiences. But as above, so below, and the reciprocal idea of so below as above, the idea of complementarity potentially reaches much, much deeper. In the cosmos below that of the human life experience, in the microscopic world of cells, complementarity is observed in all forms of DNA, the molecule that encodes the information for creating all of the splendor and diversity of life on Earth. It is quite fascinating when we consider that just like the two fish, the DNA that embodies all of the information necessary to express all life on Earth is in the form of a molecule that is comprised of two equivalent threads running in opposite directions that are brought into unity around a common central axis. In biological terms, the fish swimming in opposite directions are referred to as anti-parallel strands. Yet again, here in the microcosmos of the cellular world, there is a similar echo from the cosmos of the human realm, and mirrored yet again in the macrocosmos of the two stars in the Pisces binary system. When we go a bit deeper and start examining the patterns expressed by DNA by looking at it from different angles, we also discover some very interesting qualities. From the side view of the molecule in motion, we see that it is highly energetic and that it receives and transmits waves of energy along its length. You often hear it mentioned in discussions about how the electrons that orbit the nucleus of an atom very much closely parallel how the planets in a solar system orbit the sun. Well, an equally interesting phenomenon is that the helical pattern that DNA traces through its motion is analogous to the spiral pattern that the Earth traces around the sun as it moves through space. Additionally, when viewed in cross-section, the different forms of DNA molecule look like a series of mandalas. Visually, with a bit of concentration, one can see that the cross-sectional DNA molecule in motion, which is the chemical basis for all life on Earth, resembles a kaleidoscope of diversity in form and yields ultimately to the image of an unfolding flower, much like the ideas presented in the Vedic texts from many thousands of years ago. Among these ideas, one of the dominant images used to represent the universe is that of an unfolding lotus flower. As above, so below. So below, as above. Life is indeed a perfect kaleidoscope. By revealing to you some of these connections that I've discovered by going down these rabbit holes, I would like to propose to you a new perspective by which to view the entire universe. Imagine a beautiful tapestry woven by an infinite diversity of vibrating threads whose collective image on the surface represents our perception and experience of life. If we start by imagining every single thing in existence as one of those unique threads, then imagine these threads being woven together in such a way that every single thread intersects every other thread, at the very least at one point along its length. Then combine all of these threads as they're woven intricately together in a giant expanding and undulating tapestry, and we begin to visualize the true nature of the universe. In this model of the universe, the stars in the night sky come to represent the places in the tapestry where higher concentrations of the threads converge and intersect. For us here on Earth, everything that we experience as reality is realized in the potential of the energy that radiates down to us from the sun. Likewise, as balanced human beings, we have the potential within our hearts and minds to rise up to the level of the sun and become like a star as a brilliant source of warmth, light, and love. At this level of being, which is your birthright, you begin to vibrate in resonance with the universe. The all and the true expression of your divine nature, your soul, becomes realized. Ultimately, this is your purpose here in this life on Earth. It is your unique experience of life as you journey from the valley towards the summit. Okay, so I've gone way down the rabbit hole, both higher in the direction of the stars, as well as deeper down in the realm of the cell. It's time to reel things in a little bit and bring it back down and up to the everyday world of human beings, to where you and I are right here in this YouTube moment. What I really desire for you to understand is that no matter where you are in your current state of being, you are not alone, and that everything is connected, and through this connection between us, that I'm here to help you. In fact, I have sincerely committed to devoting the rest of my life to your cause. No matter what it takes from my end, I'm absolutely determined to ensure that you succeed in all aspects of your journey through life from the valley to the summit. I am here to help you both with your burden, and if you allow me, I can be both your Sherpa and guiding angel. Now listen, I'll admit that perhaps I'm misguided, delusional, or sentimental, but somehow I feel that all of our lives are leading up to this particular moment right here and now in space and time. At this very moment, you've been blessed with the gift of life and presented with a very beautiful opportunity to rise up within your being. Now, as the father of this YouTube child in the form of Change Your Mind, I take full responsibility for seeing things through and raising this channel to its highest potential. I cannot imagine a more beautiful soul or anyone other than you who is more ready and capable to embark on this new adventure in life. The gates are wide open, and everything you have ever dreamed of lies within. It's time for you to stretch your wings like never before and venture into new territory. And I promise you that if you choose to move beyond fear and to take the leap with me, this path will not be dull and boring. It will be challenging and difficult, but we both know that anything worth doing in life is never easy. The trail leading higher and deeper will yield breathtaking vistas as it meanders among vast stretches of greenery and growth, extending in an unlimited arc across the horizon. The possibilities are endless, and there's no limit to where the unwavering trade winds of change may lead us. So I'm asking you, my dearest of viewers, with all of my being and in the sincerest way possible, are you ready to take my hand and join me in this crazy adventure called life? Are you ready to take my hand and jump into the beautiful abyss of the unknown? Are you ready with body, mind, heart, and spirit to venture into the eternal realm beyond the limiting illusions of material form? Two birds of thought and union of heart and breath can become inseparable yet unattached. The gates leading to eternal freedom are wide open. All I ask is that you reach higher and deeper within yourself in this present moment and summon the courage to rise up in your being and take my hand in yours so that we can walk through the gates together. For more information, tools, and resources to help lighten your load and accelerate your journey, feel free to check things out at www.changeyourmind.life. Okay, well, now back to our regular scheduled programming. By rising above old patterns and negative conditioning, and by examining all of the different possibilities that exist in the present moment, you can actively choose to respond in the most positive and best way possible. By maintaining awareness and presence, you can effectively change any perceived obstacle into a helpful stepping stone that will carry you forward and on your way. Any problem in life can be solved by restating the question in a new and more positive light, thereby reframing the illusion of the obstacle into the reality of a practical and liberating stepping stone. By changing the line of questioning from, "Why is this happening to me?" or "What have I done to deserve this?" to "What can I learn from this experience?" or "What area of my life does this event reveal I need to work on?" You can effectively form your own narrow bridge of understanding between the perceived problem and its solution. In much the same way that Al-Resha forms the narrow bridge between the two opposite and equal fish in the constellation Pisces, by shifting your questions and reframing your past, you can bridge the seemingly insurmountable gaps and dark places within your being with the light of increased consciousness. By turning your obstacles into stepping stones, you effectively change your mind and raise the quality of your experience of life as you continue along your journey from the valley to the summit.
Oh, it's a beautiful spring evening here on the southern end of Texada Island in British Columbia. Got a nice fire going, and I thought I'd play a couple songs for y'all. So yeah, thanks for joining. And this one's called The Wisdom in Love.
I'd be your lover, the way we used to feel. I sold my love inside your garden to see if it could grow. Last time I checked, the flowers wild, babe. I've learned to let you go. And now we've grown a bit wiser. I keep my love close to me. I've learned to curb my desires and everything in between. I built my temple on your mountain to put your heart at ease. I like to go there when I'm lonesome. I guess I'll always be. Whoa. And now we've grown a bit wiser. I keep my love close to me. I've learned to curb my desires and everything in between. La da 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 da. La da da da. La da 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 da. La da da da. And now we've grown a bit wiser. I keep my love close to me. I've learned to curb my desires and everything in between.
Wisdom in Love. Yeah. Oh, look at that place. It's awesome.